What unspeakable cruelty leaves a flicker of life buried beneath the weight of indifference, and what spark of mercy dares to challenge it? Amidst the cacophony of a demolition site, Mateus Silva, a man forged by the relentless rhythm of labor, swung his jackhammer. His faded blue overalls were thick with dust, his weathered hands strong, gripping the vibrating machine, his kind observant eyes practical. But then, a sound. Faint, almost swallowed by the roar, a whimper. He paused, dismissing it, but the seed of unease was planted. It came again, clearer, a tiny thread of agony cutting through the din, forcing the jarring silence of his powered-down machine. Drawn, Mateus followed the echo, kneeling before a dark opening in a concrete duct. A flash of movement, then two terrified, dirt-rimmed eyes stared back. A small, scruffy mixed-breed puppy, 8 weeks old, thin and weak, its floppy ears pressed back, tail curled tight, was trapped. The cold, unyielding concrete became a tomb. He tried to reach in, his thick worn work gloves scraping, the crack too narrow. The puppy whined, pure agony. He called out. Jorge, the burly, stressed foreman, approached. What's the holdup, Mateus? Deadline. It's just an animal. But Mateus's quiet demeanor was replaced by fierce resolve. He saw the desperate plea. He would not abandon it. Eu vou te tirar die, garoto, he whispered. Jorge's voice cut. What's it going to be? The job or some stray? The puppy's desperate whimpers rose, echoing Mateus's racing heart. The perilous path ahead, demanding and dangerous, stretched before him, an immense, crushing weight of choice. Mateus, still on his knees, kind observant eyes fixed on the concrete, slowly rose, body tense. Jorge, impatient, stood above him, but the puppy's faint whimpers were Mateus's only focus. He confronted his foreman. We stop. We get him out. The argument was fierce, duty versus compassion, but Mateus's unwavering resolve and workers' murmurs secured a reluctant halt, laced with risk warnings. He grabbed a pry bar and sledgehammer, weathered hands attempting to chip. Each heavy blow sent vibrations, making the puppy whimper more intensely. Engineers arrived, grim faces confirming fear, manual braking risked collapse. The site buzzed with palpable tension, the clock ticking. Specialized equipment arrived, a powerful jackhammer, a concrete saw. Mateus, donning his thick worn work gloves, took the saw. Dust exploded as he guided it with agonizing slowness, his faded blue overalls quickly grimy. Through the growing gap, he saw a small paw twitch. The puppy was still alive. He whispered reassurances, his voice raw, and slid a thin tube through, feeling desperate lapping. Hours crawled. Mateus's shoulders ached, hands raw and chafed. Dusk bled into oppressive twilight, the sight plunging into cold, shadow-distorted gloom. The temperature plummeted. Mateus contorted his body in the cramped space, concrete closing in. Doubt gnawed. Is this worth it? He shook his head, recalling those innocent eyes. He chipped, a chunk breaking free, only to reveal more debris. The puppy's whimpers grew softer, infrequent, sending panic through Mateus. Other workers showed fatigue. Then, an ominous crack spiderwebbed higher up the main wall, a terrifying consequence. Mateus ignored the gasp, his determination hardening. He worked blind, bare, bleeding hands reaching into darkness, fingers brushing cold, sharp edges. The air grew thick with acrid concrete dust, choking him. Jorge, pale, gave his final warning. Mateus, stop. Too dangerous. Mateus didn't look up. Not yet. Not while it's still alive. His cold fingers brushed the puppy's fur, colder than expected. Aguenta firme, amiguinho, he whispered, voice cracking. He leaned against the vibrating concrete, hammer heavy, knuckles white. The puppy's whimpers were imperceptible, his heart pounding, the ominous crack a direct consequence. The immense weight of choice rested on his aching, trembling hands.
We're already behind schedule. Get back to work.
Mateus's kind observant eyes snapped open, blazing with defiant energy, fixing on the ominous, spreading crack. The chipping hammer, impossibly heavy, found purpose in his trembling, weathered strong hands. The absolute silence from the duct, a terrifying vacuum where the puppy's whimpers once were, echoed loudest. He fought the dark night of the soul, doubt screaming, it's gone. He closed his eyes, and the puppy's terrified, innocent eyes burned with life, igniting a surge of primal resolve. He would not give up. He lifted the hammer, but the concrete groaned anew. Debris rained down, dust blooming. Engineers screamed urgent warnings to evacuate, but Mateus was oblivious, his world narrowed to the tiny opening. His blue overalls, now torn, revealed raw skin. He cast aside the heavy hammer for a smaller chisel, his bare, calloused, bleeding hands trembling with controlled precision. Each tap was measured. Through the narrow opening, he glimpsed the puppy, barely moving, eyes glazed, yet still looking towards his light, a silent, desperate plea. "Eus tu aqui. Quais la," he hoarsely whispered. His muscles screamed. A large, jagged piece of concrete, a final barrier, was wedged directly in front. Mateus chose a risky maneuver with a small pry bar, knowing a miscalculation could crush the puppy or cause collapse. His hand trembled as he inserted the pry bar, sweat stinging his kind observant eyes. A hairline crack appeared. Then, the puppy let out a tiny, almost inaudible whimper, a sound of life. He pressed his ear to the concrete, feeling the faintest tremor, a shared breath. The cavity was pitch black, an abyss, illuminated only by his headlamp. His gloves snagged, he tore them off. The taste of blood filled his mouth as he bit his lip, pain secondary to urgency. With a final, agonizing push, the large piece of concrete gave way with a sickening groan, tumbling safely away. The opening was wider. Mateus saw the puppy clearly, a pathetic, inert ball. But a thin, twisted rebar still prevented a clean reach. Too close to cut. The impossible choice, bend it by hand, risking severe injury or destabilization. Without hesitation, Mateus reached his bare, bleeding weathered strong hands in, grappling with the rebar. The metal bit deep into his flesh, tearing new wounds, but he grunted through the pain. Jorge and the engineers screamed warnings of collapse. Mateus ignored them, his face a mask of primal determination. With a sickening groan, the rebar bent just enough. Mateus's entire body strained. He stretched his arm, his fingers just brushing the puppy's dusty fur. He gently touched its back. It stirred, a weak tremor. Its head weakly lifted, terror-rimmed eyes meeting Mateus's kind observant eyes. A silent plea answered. His fingers curled around its tiny, fragile body. With excruciating slowness, he pulled. The puppy emerged, small and limp, gasping a shallow, rattling breath. Mateus pulled it to his chest, cradling it in his bruised, bleeding hands. The world held its breath. A single tear cut a clean path through the dirt on Mateus's cheek, falling onto the puppy's head. With a faint flutter, the puppy licked Mateus's cheek, a tiny, miraculous sign of life and trust. Mateus slumped against the concrete, utterly spent, but a wave of profound relief washed over him. The ominous cracks seemed to hold their breath. Coworkers' faces were pale, arguments forgotten, replaced by awe. Mateus closed his kind observant eyes, holding the puppy tighter, feeling its fragile warmth, a silent vow passing between them. The immense weight of their agony settled, now mingled with triumph. He felt the puppy's tiny heart beating against his own, a rhythm of survival. The raw pain in his hands, the ache in his bones, were badges of honor. Jorge stood speechless, his bluster gone, looking at Mateus with uncharacteristic respect. A worker silently handed Mateus a first aid kit. Mateus managed a weak, but genuine, smile, directed at the small life in his arms. He cradled the tiny, inert puppy in his bruised and bleeding hands, his face streaked with tears and dirt, his blue overalls ripped, hard hat askew. The puppy gave a shallow, rattling breath, a tiny flutter against his chest. He looked at it, at the dark hole, at the pale faces. A profound, almost spiritual calm settled over him, replacing the agony. He closed his kind observant eyes, holding the puppy tighter, feeling its fragile warmth against him, a silent vow passing between them in the suffocating stillness of the demolition site. Mateus slowly opened his kind observant eyes, dawn's light piercing the dark sky. He was seated, still cradling the puppy, now wrapped in his torn work jacket, its breathing more even. A veterinarian, her gentle hands a stark contrast, rushed to them. Mateus, with immense reluctance, carefully handed the puppy over, watching its every movement. It received warmth, fluids, pain relief, and Mateus, refusing to leave its side, named it Esperanza, Hope. He drove Esperanza away, clean air a bomb. At home, he created a warm, soft bed, watching over her. For days, Esperanza was withdrawn, flinching, hesitant to eat. Mateus's heart ached for her trauma. He spent hours talking softly, stroking her fur with his now bandaged, tender hands. On the third day, Esperanza, coaxed, took food from his hand. Then, a tentative wag of her tail, sending joy through him. Weeks transformed Esperanza. She gained weight, fur glossy, terror-rimmed eyes replaced by curiosity. She became a healthy, small-sized dog, floppy ears animated, tail wagging. Mateus's own bruises faded, cuts healed, exhaustion lifting, replaced by quiet contentment. Back at the site, Jorge's demeanor shifted, now respectful. Other workers greeted Mateus warmly, asking about Esperanza, a shared ordeal forging community. Esperanza's playful personality blossomed, chasing toys, tumbling. Sometimes, a loud noise made her flinch, a fleeting shadow, but Mateus was always there, his arm a shield. He was no longer just an operario. He was a rescuer, a guardian, a symbol of unexpected compassion. The experience deepened his empathy, altering his perspective on life's fragility and resilience. Esperanza now followed him everywhere, sleeping at his side, their bond absolute. Mateus looked at his modest home, filled with her warmth and life, the contrast with the cold concrete immense. He often reflected on that decision, the moral weight of choosing life, the immense risk. He knew he made the right choice. He imagined a future filled with walks and quiet evenings. Esperanza was not just a pet, she was a living testament to hope, courage, and strength. Mateus sat on his porch, Esperanza asleep at his feet, feeling a profound sense of peace. The world outside seemed distant. Mateus knelt, stroking Esperanza's soft fur, the tiny dog licking his weathered hand. The scars on his hands, the lingering ache, were badges of honor, reminders of a night when a choice was made between indifference and life. He looked out at the sunrise, the demolition site a distant memory, and whispered, his voice filled with a quiet reverence, meo eopa e destruico, encontrii algo mais forte que o concreto, a prova de que, mesmo nas profundezas mais escuras, semper ha uma faísca de esperança que vale a pena de centrar.